There are 5 concepts you should know before getting into SwiftUI, or if you're just starting SwiftUI. So keep watching and find out. Okay, concept number 1. There are only 3 ways to lay out views in SwiftUI. Only 3 ways, and I'm going to show you all 3 of them right now. So the first way is laying things out vertically, and you create what's called a V-stack or a vertical stack. That means every time I add something here, it's going to lay it out vertically. That's one way to lay things out. The second way to lay things out is horizontally. So you do that with an H-stack. And I'm going to create some shapes. Okay, that's one. Now I'm going to add some more here. And there we go. Those shapes are laid out horizontally. And then the third way you can lay things out is with a depth stack, or one thing behind another, or one thing on top of another. So you create layers. And the way you do that is you use what's called a Z-stack. And I'll show you how that works. There you go. Now that color is behind everything else. So really, there's only 2 things in this Z-stack, a color and a V-stack. The color is on the bottom and the V-stack is on the top. So that's concept number 1. Now concept number 2 is that everything is a view. Everything that's shown on the screen is a view. Everything that's used to lay something out on the screen is a view. So that V-stack is a view. Those different texts are views. And that color, is that a view? Yes, it is. If you can see it on the screen, it's most likely a view. So what that means is views can be modified. Views can be changed. And when you change them, you do it through what's called modifiers. Now that text on the top there, that is being modified with a larger font. So as you can see, the default font is those 2 lines that you see right there. The one above it has been modified. And what that means is it doesn't just change a view, it actually creates a brand new view. So the first view that was created is everything is a view and it's small. The second view that's created is the one that's returned from the font function or the font modifier. That returns a brand new view. It's actually replacing the first one. So you might be familiar with things like Sketch, where you draw some text or you draw a rectangle, you give some color, you change the shape, you change the size, and you're adding properties to an existing view. Now that's similar to what you're doing here, but it's not actually changing a view, it's replacing a view. So that's a different concept altogether in SwiftUI. Modifiers replace views. They don't change them, they replace them. Concept number 3 is that views can have parents and children. So there's a parent-child relationship. Now the V-stack, that's a view. And the V-stack right now has 7 children, which are all text views. Now the thing that's important to know about parent-child relationships is I can change views individually, or sometimes I can modify these views on a parent level. So say I want to change all that text, all those hello world texts, to a larger font, I can change it on its parent. And if you notice what happens, all the text was changed. Or you could say all the text was replaced with a larger text. Except for that very top one. The very top one wasn't changed because the child is overriding what the parent wants it to be. The parent wants it to be a title font. But the child says, no, I'm going to be a large title font instead. So children can override their parents. Don't apply that in the real world, though. It doesn't work. Okay. Okay, concept number 4. There are 2 types of views, or layout behaviors, I like to call them. There are pull-in views and push-out views. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you take a look at that text right here, that is a pull-in view. It's only using as much space as it needs. It doesn't stretch out, doesn't push out, doesn't try to take up any more space. It only uses as much space as it needs. Whereas the pink color and the rounded rectangle, those are pushing out and competing for space. They're trying to use as much space as possible. And that's something very important to note there, is that when you have multiple shapes or multiple push-out views, they're all going to split up the space equally, and they're all going to take their own share equally. Okay, concept number 5. So you saw that you can change views with modifiers, and modifiers They don't actually change the existing object, they replace the existing object. Well, what do you do during runtime when you want to change an object? So take a look at this screen right here. I have a button, and when I click that button, I want to change the color of that circle. How do I modify that circle so it gets replaced? You can't reference views directly. I cannot create what you might know as an outlet from UIKit. I can't create an outlet for a circle. I can't create a variable to represent that circle and change that variable. What I have to do is anything I want to change on the screen, I have to change data. And my view reacts to that data. My view will respond to that data and change with it. So if I want to change the color of that circle, well, I have to change the data. As you can see here, the foreground color is what sets the color of that circle shape. And it's using this variable right here. So if I want to change this color, I actually have to change the data. I have to change this variable. So maybe I want to change it to green when I click the button. So let's see what happens. When I click that button, it changed my variable. And what happened at that point is the whole view was completely redrawn with that new variable value. So when the circle was redrawn, it was redrawn with the green color instead. Okay, so I showed you 5 different concepts that you should know when you get into SwiftUI. These concepts will greatly help you think about creating screens and how SwiftUI works so you can better create the screens that you want and expect to see.